The thing that keeps playing on a loop in my head isn't the betrayal itself. It's the way the hallway light flickered just once when I stepped inside. That tiny, stupid flicker that felt like a warning from the universe. You know, like the air itself was trying to brace me. The house was too quiet. Not in the peaceful way. It was the kind of quiet you get before something falls. There was a pizza box on the kitchen counter, still warm, with 2 slices missing. A pair of red sneakers I didn't recognize sat by the back door. My own shoes were still in the closet, untouched. Her boots gone. The mail sat unopened except for one envelope ripped open like a child had done it in a rush. I walked slowly, not because I suspected anything. Not yet. I didn't even think. I was just moving through the motions like a man sleepwalking through his own life. The hallway smelled like cologne. Not mine. Then I heard it. Not a laugh. Not a moan. Just a name. Her voice said it like she'd said it 1,000 times behind my back. Familiar. Casual. Intimate. Nathan. Nathan. My brother's name. I stopped breathing. I didn't call out. I didn't storm in. I turned around and walked out the front door like a ghost. My body was calm. My mind? A war zone. I got in the car, parked 2 houses down, and stared at the dashboard until my eyes burned. I didn't know what I was more afraid of, catching them or confirming I already had. That name echoed. Nathan. My brother, 2 years younger. The favorite. The one everyone said was a charmer. The one who crashed at our place for a few weeks after his lease ended. That was 5 months ago. He'd sleep late, borrow my car, flirt with strangers in front of her like he didn't care. I thought it was just who he was. I didn't see the shift in her, not until now. I walked back to the house, every step heavier than the last, pushed open the door, and made a sound. Not loud. Just enough. The kind of sound that says, I'm home. Silence followed. A shuffle. Then her voice, clear, poised. Babe? You back already? Like it was a normal day. I turned into the living room and saw her there, standing by the window, hair perfect, makeup not even smudged. Her blouse slightly off her shoulder. She smiled, fake as a storefront mannequin. And right behind her, slipping into the hallway like he lived there, was Nathan. Shirt half-buttoned. His eyes met mine. And he grinned. He actually grinned. I didn't move. I stared at both of them like they were museum exhibits. She stepped forward. What's that look for? She asked, her tone already shifting sharp, defensive. Why are you looking at us like that? Say his name again, I said. My voice felt wrong in my own mouth. What? Say his name like you did just now. Her eyes narrowed. What are you talking about? Nathan stood there like it was nothing. Like I wasn't supposed to be angry. Like he hadn't just dismantled the last year of my life. No apology. No fear. Just boredom. I looked at her. You brought him into her home. She laughed. Laughed. Oh, come on. Don't act like this house was some holy sanctuary. You've been sleepwalking through this marriage for months. So you let my brother keep your bed warm? She crossed her arms. At least he makes me feel something. The air in the room shifted. Heavy. Electric. I turned to Nathan. You could have had anyone. He shrugged. She made the first move. And in that moment, I swear, something inside me changed. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I looked at them both and said, then you deserve each other. She looked surprised. Not because she felt guilty, because she expected more from me. Expected rage, begging, pleading. She got silence. And as I left, I whispered something that I didn't even fully understand yet. You didn't just take her, I said to Nathan. You took everything. I didn't go home that night. I didn't crash with a friend. I didn't book a hotel. I drove. No destination. Just forward. Out of the city, past the neighborhoods where everything felt like a cardboard cutout of the life I used to want. My phone buzzed again and again. First from her. Then from him. Then from a number I didn't recognize, probably her trying from a different line. I didn't answer. At some point around midnight, I found myself parked outside a closed diner off a country road. The kind with rusted swings out front and an old neon sign that blinked like it was on life support. The air smelled like wet pavement and burned coffee. I sat there, engine off, letting the cold settle in through the cracks of the car. I thought it might numb something. It didn't. I kept seeing their faces. His smug detachment. Her cold, rehearsed calm. She didn't even flinch when I caught them. No stutter in her voice. No panic. No fear of consequences. That was the part that hit hardest. Not just the betrayal. The ease of it. You think you'll catch your partner cheating and they'll fall apart. Cry. Beg. Offer half-lies and poor excuses. But she didn't. She didn't bother. Like I wasn't even worth lying to anymore. That's when it started to sink in, not just what they did, but what it meant. They'd been close for months and I'd been the only one in the room too blind to see it. The way she lit up when he joked. The way her body shifted toward him when we all sat on the couch. I used to think I was imagining it. You gaslight yourself when you're too afraid to look truth in the face. I fed myself delusions. That it was just sibling energy. That I was being paranoid. No. She wanted me to think that. She used to tell me Nathan was reckless. Immature. Not your competition, she'd say once, laughing when I joked that he was more charismatic. She played me. She set the stage. Made herself look disinterested so I'd never suspect a thing. But what kind of person brings your own brother into your house and does whatever they did behind closed doors? The kind of person who doesn't just cheat. The kind who devours. I closed my eyes and saw it all again, our last anniversary. The dinner I cooked. The gift she didn't bother to open. I remember her scrolling on her phone the entire night. I'd convinced myself she was tired. Stressed. Busy. All the while, maybe she was texting him from across the table. I laughed. Out loud. In the car. Because there's a point where pain tips over into something else. Something darker. It's not sadness. It's not rage. It's detachment. The realization that nothing was ever as real as you thought. That night, I deleted every photo of her from my phone. Not just us. Her. I deleted old voicemails. Texts. Contact. Gone. I knew it wouldn't fix anything, but I had to start somewhere. I sent one message. Not to her. Not to Nathan. To my parents. All lines are cut. Don't call. Don't ask. You'll hear the full story soon, but you'll have to pick a side. Choose wisely. I didn't wait for a reply. I dropped my phone on the passenger seat, leaned back, and let the dark surround me. And in that silence, something unfamiliar stirred in my chest. Not hate. Not grief. Clarity. Morning came without warning. The kind of dull gray sunrise that doesn't warm, just reveals. I hadn't slept. I didn't even close my eyes. The diner parking lot was still empty, save for an old truck that had pulled in at some point during the night and then left without a sound. The silence I felt wasn't peaceful, it was surgical. Like someone had gone in and removed whatever part of me used to feel tethered to that old life. My body moved like it knew what to do before I did. I pulled out of the lot, found a gas station, washed my face in the grimy bathroom sink, and stared at myself in the mirror. It was the first time I saw it. The vacancy behind my eyes. That quiet expression men wear when they've been emptied out. I drove back. Not to her. Not to him. To my parents' place. The house was the same. White shutters, overgrown hedges, wind chimes that never stopped singing even when no one was listening. My mother opened the door before I could knock. She must have seen me from the window. Her face was a mixture of guilt and confusion. Why haven't you answered our calls? I stepped past her, not angry, just done. My father sat on the couch, remote in hand, news playing on mute. When he saw me, his hand froze in mid-click. He didn't say anything. Didn't need to. That man has always measured emotion in silence. Did you know? I asked. My mother flinched. No, what? Don't play dumb. About Nathan. About her. The silence that followed was enough. Not because they said yes, but because they didn't say no fast enough. My father looked down, rubbed his hands together like he was cold. It wasn't our place to interfere. I laughed. Hard. Cruel. Not your place? He was your son. She was my wife. And what, you thought it would work itself out? That I wouldn't notice? That maybe if I just loved her hard enough, she'd stop climbing into his bed while I was at work. My mother's eyes welled, but it wasn't for me. Not really. She was crying because the mask had cracked. Because the family myth that we were close, loyal, tight-knit was dead now. She wasn't mourning my betrayal. She was mourning her fantasy. He needed help, she whispered. No, I said. He needed a spine. And you gave him cover instead. I stepped back, hands shaking, not from fear, not anymore. From disbelief. Because they knew. Maybe not all the details. But enough. They saw the signs, the glances, the way he acted like a king in my house, and she bent around him like ivy. And they said nothing. They chose silence. That's when the words came out. Unrehearsed. Heavy. My brother didn't just take her. He took everything. My love. My pride. I crashed in silence. Cut ties with my family. But in the darkness, something awoke inside me. It stunned even me how come I sounded. Like I was narrating the ending of someone else's story. My father stood up. Where are you going? Away. Where? Where your name doesn't mean anything. And with that I left. No hug. No second look. I wasn't their son anymore. I wasn't a husband. I wasn't a brother. I was a man rebuilding from ashes. And I had no idea what I was going to do next. But for the first time I didn't feel lost. I stayed off the grid for a week. Rented a short-term place under a fake name through a friend who owed me a favor, no questions asked. One suitcase, no contact. Just me, my thoughts, and the slow, suffocating ache of everything that had collapsed. I thought about what kind of man disappears like that. Just vanishes. Leaves behind the wreckage of his marriage, his family, and everything he thought was real. But the more I sat with the silence, the more I realized I didn't disappear. I escaped. Then the letter arrived. Not an email. Not a text. A physical letter. Handwritten. No return address. Just my name scrawled across the envelope like it had been written in a rush. The kind of handwriting you get when your hands are shaking but you're trying to act like they're not. It was from her. I opened it. Not because I cared what she had to say, but because I needed to see how far she'd go to rewrite the story. It started like a joke. No apology. No remorse. Just justification dressed as sincerity. I never planned for it to happen, she wrote. But you and I both know we've been off for a while. Nathan was just there. And I needed something real. Something real. That line hit me harder than anything else. Because it confirmed what I already suspected. She didn't just betray me, she deleted me. In her version of events, I had already stopped existing long before I caught them. She went on about chemistry and how we grew apart. And then, as if she were handing me a prize for my suffering, she wrote, I hope someday you can forgive us. We never meant to hurt you. That last sentence did something to me. Like a switch flipped and all the air left the room. Because the truth is, they did mean to hurt me. Maybe not with knives, not with fists, but with decisions. Every secret they kept. Every night they shared while I was a room away. Every time he borrowed my shirt or she kissed me with his scent still on her skin. They made choices. And choices are sharp. They cut. I burned the letter. Not in some poetic way. No ceremony. I dropped it in the sink, lit a match, and watched it curl into black flakes until nothing was left but the smell of smoke and a metal basin full of lies. That night, I started a list. Not a list of what I'd lost. A list of what I was going to reclaim. Because grief is a strange thing. At first, it feels like a weight that crushes your lungs. Then, slowly, it turns into armor. Not protection from anyone, but proof. Proof that you've walked through fire and kept moving. I wrote down names. Projects I had abandoned. Skills I used to love. People I drifted from because I'd poured all my time and energy into someone who saw me as a placeholder. And then I did something I never thought I'd do. I reached out to Nathan's ex, Claire. We hadn't spoken in years. She and Nathan broke up messy, and Jessica always made sure to paint her as unstable or obsessed. I bought it. Like a fool. She answered my message within minutes. You found out, didn't you? She wrote. Yes. I'm sorry. I really am. Did he ever say anything about me? About what they were doing? Claire sent a single line back. He used to brag about how easy it was to make her fall. And just like that, the pieces started to snap together. Nathan didn't just take her because of some forbidden passion. He did it because he could. Because he wanted to win. Because in some sick, twisted game, he still needed to prove he could take everything I had and make it his. But not anymore. He took what I had. Now it was time to build something he could never touch. I didn't sleep that night, not because I couldn't, but because I wouldn't. I felt awake for the first time in months. Maybe years. My body was still tired, but my mind? Razor sharp. Alive. I sat in the middle of that rented room, the cheap lamp humming beside me, papers scattered around me like a storm. I was writing down everything. Not a journal. A blueprint. Names. Dates. Patterns. I began mapping it all, every moment that hadn't made sense before. The skipped dinners. The late meetings. The nights she said she was at yoga but came home smelling like whiskey and regret. At first, it was like reopening wounds. But then it started to feel like sharpening a weapon. I didn't want revenge. I wanted clarity. And that's when I remembered the storage unit. Back when she and I moved in together, I put a bunch of stuff in a small storage space across town, old laptops, external hard drives, cameras, files from my freelance work. I hadn't touched it in years. But something in me said, check it. When I got there, the place looked abandoned. Dust coated everything. The lights flickered like they were on their last breath. But when I found the box labeled backups, I knew I was right to come. I took it home, booted up an old drive, and started digging. And then I found it. Buried in an old folder was a cache of synced videos automatically uploaded from an old home security system we had when we first moved in. I'd forgotten the cameras were even there. She'd asked me to disable them after a month, said it made the place feel like a prison. I disabled the feed but never unlinked the upload. And apparently, I never stopped the archive. I watched the first few. Nothing. Just the usual, me coming home late, her in the kitchen. Normal life. Then I scrolled further. 2 months back. I clicked. And there it was. Nathan. In my kitchen. Pouring wine. Setting the table. My wife, standing in the same spot where she'd once hugged me after our engagement, now leaning into him. Laughing. She touched his chest. He kissed her neck. I didn't flinch. I didn't look away. I watched it all, cold and still. The videos weren't graphic, but they didn't need to be. It was emotional intimacy. Familiarity. Comfort. The way they moved like it was routine. But it wasn't the betrayal that gutted me. It was the joy on her face. A joy I hadn't seen in years. Not with me. Not even once in the last 6 months of our marriage. She gave him that freely. Like I'd never existed. And Nathan, he looked right into the kitchen camera at one point. Just for a second. No fear. No guilt. Like he knew I'd never see it. Like he believed he was untouchable. He was wrong. I copied everything. Backed it up 3 times. Labeled it. Secured it. Not to share. Not yet. But because proof matters. Truth matters. When people like them rewrite the story, you better have the receipts. And I knew then, I wasn't going to be quiet about this. They'd taken everything from me, my home, my family, my sense of safety. But they forgot something. I built things for a living. I know how to start from zero. The difference this time? I wouldn't be building with them in mind. I went online, bought a new domain, and started sketching the outline for a blog. Not a rant. A record. A timeline. A public autopsy of what it looks like when trust is slaughtered by the people closest to you. It wouldn't be anonymous. I wasn't hiding anymore. They took their shots. Now it was time I started telling my story on my terms. The first post went live on a Wednesday. It was short. Precise. No dramatic flair. Just the truth laid bare like a wound under harsh light. I titled it When Betrayal Has a Last Name. I didn't call them by name in that post, not yet. But anyone close enough to know me would read between the lines. And that was the point. I wasn't throwing a grenade. I was lighting a fuse. Within hours, it spread. Old friends started messaging me. Some hadn't talked to me in years, but now they just wanted to check in. Some were shocked. Others weren't. But the most surprising reactions came from people I didn't expect to hear from at all. One was Claire again, Nathan's ex. She sent a screenshot of my post with 3 words, "About time, huh?" She added, "He did it to me too." Took everything and walked away smiling. She offered to talk. Not just about Nathan. About all of it. We met at a park. Neutral ground. She wore sunglasses even though the sky was overcast. But when she started talking, her voice was clear. Steady. And what she told me. It wasn't just me. Nathan had a pattern. A documented history of seducing, taking, discarding. Always within reach of people he knew he could control. He dated his best friend's sister in college, left her with debt and a broken lease. Hooked up with a coworker's fiancée, then ghosted when the scandal hit. His whole life was made of stolen pieces. And I was his biggest prize. Claire said he used to joke that I was safe. That I'd always come second. That I was the quiet one. The one who never sees the knife until it's already in. I sat there, absorbing it all like poison through skin. I wasn't shocked. Not really. Just confirmed. Everything I'd hoped wasn't true, laid out plainly. You were never the competition, she told me. You were the target. That word lodged itself somewhere deep inside me. Not the competition. The target. I realized then that everything I thought was random, the late-night conversations, the casual invasions of privacy, the way Jessica began to slowly adopt Nathan's phrases, his music taste, his sleep schedule, none of it was chance. It was curated. Engineered. A long game. I left the meeting feeling hollowed out and weirdly clear. The kind of clarity that comes when you realize you've been standing in a fire and calling it warmth. That night, I wrote the second post. This one had names. It had dates. It had screenshots. I didn't embellish. I didn't rant. I laid it out like a crime scene analyst. Just the facts. The receipts. A digital breadcrumb trail from the moment Nathan moved into the final confrontation in our living room. And then I wrote a sentence that would become the spine of everything that followed. They didn't just betray me. They recruited each other to erase me. The post exploded. By morning, it had been shared over 30,000 times. Messages flooded in. People telling their own stories of betrayal. Others reaching out to ask if I was okay. A few accusing me of airing dirty laundry. But I didn't respond to any of them. Not yet. I didn't post for 2 more days. And then I published part 3. The family that watched it happen. Because betrayal doesn't happen in a vacuum. And some people, the ones you think will protect you, are just bystanders with locked jaws and clean hands. I knew I was losing any chance of going back to normal. But that's the thing no one tells you. When the ground breaks under your feet, the last thing you want is to stand in the same spot again. You want to burn the map. 2 days after the 3rd post went live, my father called me. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail, his voice clipped, distant, trying to keep its usual cold authority, but I could hear something underneath it. Not regret. Not sorrow. Fear. The kind of fear that only shows up when reputations are in danger. He said, enough. This is family business. You've made your point. Come home. I played that message 6 times. Come home. As if that place still existed. As if the foundation hadn't already cracked beneath it, swallowed me whole, and left only ghosts standing in its frame. Later that same night, I got an email. It was from a stranger. Or at least, she was a stranger to me. Subject: you don't know me. But I knew her. I clicked. Inside was a letter from a woman named Alyssa, someone Jessica had worked with in her old job, the job she claimed she hated and left 2 years ago for a mental health reset. Turns out that was a lie. Jessica had been fired for ethical violations, the email said. But the kicker? Alyssa wasn't writing to shame her. She was writing to confess. She and Jessica had been friends briefly, close even, until Jessica started confiding in her about an experiment. An experiment, she wrote. That's what Jessica had called it. She said she wanted to see how far she could push her husband before he broke. How much he would tolerate. How long he'd stay loyal even while she chipped away at him from the inside. She said you were sweet but dull, the email said. That you loved her more than she deserved. That it made her sick. I felt nothing. No rage. No horror. Just confirmation of something I already knew deep down. It had never been love for her. Not really. It was a game. And I was the slowest moving piece on the board. After reading Alyssa's letter, I sat for a long time without moving. I thought about every conversation Jessica and I ever had that ended with her saying, "Don't be so sensitive." Every time I swallowed my instincts because I didn't want to seem paranoid. Every small humiliation she slipped into our daily lives like poison in a glass of water. I had been her mirror. Not a partner. Just a reflection to dress up her ego. She didn't just cheat. She dismantled. She curated the fall. The next post was different. It wasn't cold. It wasn't strategic. It was a declaration. I wrote. They didn't just destroy our marriage. They constructed a stage, handed me a script, and laughed behind the curtain. But I'm not your actor anymore. I'm burning the set. That post cracked through the viral ceiling. People began reaching out from media accounts. Podcasts. Tabloids. Everyone wanted the scoop. The anonymous man with the public betrayal. Some begged me to go on camera. Some asked for interviews. One offered money. I declined them all. This wasn't about fame. This was about visibility. About shining a light on the twisted corners of betrayal people don't talk about, the kind where love isn't stolen but manufactured, used, and thrown away like a prop. That same day, Nathan finally messaged me. Not a call. Not a voice memo. A message. 2 lines. You're blowing this way out of proportion. Let it go. You're embarrassing yourself. That was it. Not sorry. Not a shred of guilt. And it hit me like ice down my spine. He truly believed he did nothing wrong. And maybe he never would. Because people like him, people who take and grin and walk away, they survive on silence. On others keeping the peace. But that silence? It's broken now. And I wasn't finished. There are moments in your life when the rules of reality shift. When things that used to make sense, love, loyalty, family, start to rot right in front of you and the smell never quite leaves your lungs. That shift happened for me on a Saturday afternoon when I got an unexpected message from someone named Megan. I didn't recognize the name at first. Just another notification in the flood of reactions to my posts. But the subject line stopped me cold. I'm his fiancé. I opened it with 1 part hesitation, 3 parts dread. She was talking about Nathan. Apparently, while he was sabotaging my marriage, while he was sleeping under my roof and peeling apart my life with surgical precision, he was also engaged. To someone else. Megan. They'd been together nearly a year. He proposed 3 months ago. She'd met her parents, my parents. Had dinner in the same house where I used to sit across from him at Thanksgiving, thinking we shared a bond stronger than blood. She'd heard about me. Only not as his brother. As the ex-friend with issues. He told her I had some kind of emotional breakdown. That I was jealous. That I had it out for him after some business disagreement. That I was unstable. He never told her we were brothers. Never told her he had moved in with my wife during my marriage. She found out through a mutual friend who stumbled onto my blog and connected the dots. She reached out not to warn me but to understand what kind of man she was about to marry. I told her the truth. Not with anger. Not with venom. Just the story as it happened. And when I finished, she simply said, I should have known. He never lets you get too close. Everything's surface. She ended the engagement that same night. I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt eerily numb. The kind of numb that says, this rabbit hole has no bottom. And I was still falling. That same evening, I got a message from my mother. Just 2 words. Please stop. I stared at that message for a long time. Not because I was considering it, but because it finally showed me what they really valued. Not truth. Not healing. Just silence. Their legacy mattered more than their son's life unraveling in front of them. They'd sooner protect the image of unity than address the rot underneath. I responded once. You picked your favorite. Now live with it. I didn't block her. I didn't need to. There was nothing left to say. Later that week, a package arrived at my temporary apartment. No return address. I opened it carefully, expecting, what? A letter? A photo? A final insult? It was a box. Inside, my old wedding ring placed neatly on a folded piece of paper. No note. Just a receipt from a pawn shop where Jessica had tried to sell it 3 days after I left. The clerk must have recognized it. Sent it back to me himself. I held it in my hand and for a second I remembered the day I bought it. How long I saved. How excited I was. The way I'd stared at it in the store like it meant something permanent. Now it just felt cold. Unclaimed metal. I didn't throw it away. I didn't smash it. I kept it. Not as a reminder of her. Not of him. But as a monument to the moment I stopped begging to be seen. From that point forward, the blog changed. It wasn't just a place to document betrayal, it became a blueprint for rebuilding. I started posting about healing, boundaries, recovery. People began sharing their own stories. I created a section titled, For the Ones Who Walked Away Alone. And in that I found something I never expected to find in the aftermath. Community. Strangers. Survivors. Fighters. People who lost everything and still found a way to start over. And slowly, I started to feel something stir in the quiet between the storms. Hope. I never imagined hope would come in the form of a message from a man named Reggie. He wasn't a therapist. Not a life coach. Just a guy who'd been through hell in a different shape. His email was raw, unedited, almost frantic. I read your story. I was the Nathan in someone else's life. I ruined my brother's world. And he never forgave me. I think about it every day. That caught me off guard. I wasn't used to hearing from the other side. Most messages were from people like me, scorched by betrayal, learning how to walk on ash. But Reggie's words were messy with guilt. You could feel it bleeding through the screen. He didn't excuse what he did. He didn't ask for sympathy. He said he couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, hadn't looked his brother in the eyes since 2019. He ended with, don't let them pretend this was just a mistake. Mistakes don't have passwords and hiding places. Mistakes don't smile when they're caught. That line lived with me. For days. Because he was right. Nathan hadn't made a mistake. Jessica hadn't slipped. They chose. And they enjoyed it. The more I unpacked that, the clearer everything became. They never apologized, not really. Not once. Not a text. Not a call. Not a single effort to acknowledge the damage they caused. They were too busy living the reward. I started getting messages from mutual acquaintances. Some of them had been in the room while it was all happening. Work friends. Social people. Passive observers who noticed but never said a word. One of them even admitted they saw something once, Jessica sitting too close, Nathan whispering something in her ear at a party, and they laughed it off. We figured it was just a weird joke between siblings-in-law. And I thought, there's always someone watching. Always someone who knows. But knowing and speaking are two different beasts. The next blog post was the hardest one I'd written. I called it The Sound of Being Erased. Because betrayal doesn't start with a kiss or a lie. It starts in the little silences. The ignored instincts. The dinners with cold eyes across the table. The quiet disappointments you bury under routines. You don't just wake up to a ruined marriage, you rot into it, piece by piece, while pretending everything's fine. I wrote. The worst part wasn't losing her. It was realizing I was never really part of their story. Just a stepping stone between their secrets. And that one hit harder than the rest. The messages turned into phone calls. A podcast reached out, not just for the story, but to do a series on betrayal within families. They wanted my input. Not as a victim. As a witness. For the first time I said yes. Not because I wanted fame. Not because I wanted to drag them through the mud one more time. But because I wanted others to know what to look for. Not every wound bleeds on the surface. Some make you forget who you are. That interview was recorded in a small studio with peeling paint and humming lights. I sat across from the host, told the story without tears, without rage. Just the facts. The process. The awakening. When it ended, she asked, what would you say to them now if they were listening? I paused for a long moment. Then said, I hope you finally understand what it means to lose something you didn't value when you had it. And that was it. I walked out into the overcast afternoon and took the longest breath I'd taken in months. No more secrets. No more silence. The story was out now. But I wasn't done living. I didn't think the final confrontation would come quietly, but it did. No shouting. No theatrics. Just an unexpected run-in on a late Sunday afternoon at a cafe I used to avoid because Jessica loved their almond croissants and I didn't want the taste of betrayal with my coffee. But there I was and there he was. Nathan. Alone. He didn't see me at first. He was scrolling through his phone, legs crossed like he had nowhere important to be. But when his eyes lifted and met mine, something flickered. Not shame. Not remorse. Annoyance. Like I was the inconvenience. He didn't move. Just smirked and said, didn't expect you to still be around. I sat down across from him. Not because I wanted to talk. Because I wanted to see, one last time, the man who thought he won. I saw Megan, I said. His face twitched. Yeah, I continued. She knows everything now. You lied to her. You lied to everyone. Even our parents. He leaned back, arms folded. You're really playing this martyr thing to the edge, huh? You stole my wife. She was never yours. You just didn't notice. There it was. The truth behind the smirk. The cracked ego behind the swagger. He didn't need to win her. He needed to beat me. But I didn't rise to it. I didn't argue. Because I finally understood something that had eluded me for months. You don't argue with fire. You walk away and let it burn out on its own. So I said the last thing I'd ever say to him. You didn't just take her. You took everything. My love. My pride. I crashed in silence. Cut ties with my family. But in the darkness, something awoke inside me. And now I see it clearer than ever. He scoffed. What, that I'm the villain? No, I said. That you're not even interesting enough to hate anymore. And I stood up and walked away. I didn't look back. Because there was nothing left behind me worth seeing. It's been 4 months since I published the last entry. The blog still gets views. People still send messages. Some ask for updates. Some want closure. But here's the truth. There is no clean ending to betrayal. It lives under your skin for a while. It whispers in your quiet moments. It rewrites the way you love, trust, and protect. But if you do the work, if you let yourself feel every sharp, messy part of it, something else happens too. You grow back. Not the same. Stronger. Quieter. Sharper. I've rebuilt most of what I lost. Not by chasing the past, but by building something that doesn't require anyone else's permission to exist. I changed my job. Moved cities. Reconnected with people I'd lost. Not to escape, to expand. As for Jessica? She's irrelevant now. A chapter I've closed, unreadable even if I wanted to go back. And Nathan? He'll always be chasing someone else's shadow. Because men like him don't build, they scavenge. And eventually, the world runs out of things for them to steal. My advice, if you've read this far? Don't wait for an apology that will never come. Don't grieve the mask they wore to keep you quiet. Let it hurt. Let it wreck you. Then rise. And never look back.